From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, Renegade Express. Whole bunch of questions about basketball. Basketball. Talk some football, too, is what we do here on Wake Up Warchant. Presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, cptallybar.com. Didn't make it out to trivia? All right, we'll make it out to bingo tonight, Thursday, at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Get yourself the finest foods in Tallahassee as well, with some of the great smiling faces and friendly folks that hang out at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. cptallybar.com is the website. You can always pull out your phone, hit up that QR code, takes you right there off Appalachia Parkway. Well, it won't take you directly to that place. You know, can't do that yet, Corey.
Right.
Elon hasn't figured that out yet, but website, figured it all out, everybody. Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. Thumbs up, 5-star ratings and reviews. And how about a subscription to Warchant? $29.99 takes you from this very moment when you sign up all the way up until September 1st. Things getting exciting. Norvell out on the booster tour. I don't even know if we have really an off season. Corey, feels like we'll be at tour of duty here in a few weeks to check them working out. So hope you enjoyed the last, 10 days. We'll be back at it, big dog.
Yeah, but in spring practice starts March 6th. So 3 weeks, right? Right around 3 weeks, we'll be starting our spring practice, man.
So many people that think, lots of big fans of the program out in Jacksonville. Where's the list? Met a Shane. Shout out to May as well. Billy, Brandon, Kevin. Our guy Will. Will's a friend of the Lamoxon.
Okay.
Which I had to kind of let Ed know. I'm like, Corey says Lamoxon because oxen, not. He's like, it's Lemix's. I'm like, I know. It's just Corey being Corey.
Right.
But apparently Will is friends with Brett, the son of Courtney and Ed. So he said that he's like, I really don't. He's like, I listen to the show, but I don't post questions. Like, but I hopped on the YouTube chat one day before I got my vasectomy, which sounds familiar. Did he give us a super chat? Because I almost want to be like, oh my gosh, I remember you. You gave us a whole bunch of money. But if he didn't, then he probably would have felt awkward in that moment, so I didn't say that. But I feel like somebody showed up and dropped a big bag on us one time. They're like, oh, I'm going to be laid up in bed because I got to go get the snippy snip. But that's Will.
I feel like I would have remembered that, but no, I guess I clearly didn't. But yeah, man, either way, congrats on the vasectomy, I guess.
James B. was there, Ed, obviously, and Courtney. My cousin Lane Hodges. Eleanor, but her friends call her Ellie, so shout out to her. Ronnie, Alan, Jason, Michael, Sean, and then Gerald and his daughter Riley. Riley's children groan whenever she puts a show on every morning, and I told her we need to fix that. And I said we'd give her kids a shout-out. I don't know her kids' names, but if your mama's name is Riley and you're listening to the show, wake up! Don't be all like, oh, Mom. So. And then a bunch of people came up and said hi as we were working, Corey. But and Ira's so nice. Like, Ira gets up, shakes their hands. Like, I'm feverishly working. I'm like, oh, yeah, they like the show. Cool, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Awesome, man. See you around. Bye.
Yeah.
But, Ira's out there doing yeoman's work. So, anyhow. All right, thanks all those people who came out to Pensacola for the booster visit, tour, stop. Lots of videos coming up over on the YouTube page, which you all should be subscribed to. Let's get to the Renegade Express, Corey, shall we?
Let's do it.
By the way, how'd Brady do? Brady debut in his
not
amateur
great
career? Or, I don't know
0 for 3. Made some nice plays in the outfield. Right. Some nice running catches. But, at the plate, not happy with himself. But the good news was it wasn't like he was overmatched. It was just timing was off, good swings, fouled some off, and then swung and missed it. One's right down the middle. But he wasn't, blown away. Okay. It is, obviously I'm not the biggest person in the world. Neither is his mom. But it was startling seeing him on a high school baseball field with some kids that are a good year older. Like, he's young. He might be the youngest kid on the team. He might have been the youngest kid in the game for either team, and he certainly was one of the smallest. And it's startling to see how big some of these freshmen are compared to my kid.
Well,
but
some dads
he's
give
gonna,
deer antler spray. Some dads give their kids vitamin energy. So
exactly right. And I'm putting that on them, and it's not poison vitamin energy at all.
Right,
It's great. Deer antler spray is. Yes. So yeah, we're getting them on that. We're getting them on that path. And I keep telling them, it's like, dude, you'll catch up with them. These kids were in 8th grade when they were your age, so by this time next year, you'll be as big as they are now, but that doesn't mean you can't work hard and try to get stronger. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But it was noticeable. I mean, there are some monsters out there, man. There are some. I mean, I assume some of them drove to the game. It was pretty incredible. But yeah, they lost, and he didn't hit well. But hey, nowhere to go but up.
Yeah. Did you do anything for Valentine's Day with Steph? I mean, you're up there. Did you punt to later this weekend? Is that what we're going to do? Because the title of the thread is Renegade Express Valentine's Week, and our guy Mark was saying he thinks it might be the most overrated holiday, if not what is. Part one of his question.
Oh, I think it was a created holiday. I mean, I guess all holidays are created technically, but it was created by the greeting card companies. So, yeah, man, no, it is completely overrated. I also think, like, it became – like it seems kind of archaic. It's like, hey, dudes are going to be dudes for 364 days a year where they act like they don't care and they're not really into you, but this one day they're going to give you flowers and all is forgiven. I feel like every day is Valentine's Day for Stephanie and I.
Okay.
I don't need to. February 14th doesn't mean nothing to me. It's no different than March 14th or February 15th. It's always Valentine's for her. And if I want to get her flowers one day, I just get her flowers. Hallmark doesn't tell me what to do. And also, she didn't get me anything. Okay. That was my long way of saying, no, I didn't get anything for her, but she didn't get anything for me either. And why is it just catered towards the women? Men like presents too.
Yeah, I thought you were going to zag there. I thought you were going to be like, 364 days out of the year now. Women are independent; they can do everything men can do, and that's how they want it to be. But then this day, you still better act like it's 1849 and bring me a dowry and your finest meats and cheeses and jewels and gems and show me just how much you love me, or else you're not worthy of my love. But you didn't zag.
Well, I was going that way. You did it for me though. Thanks, buddy.
Back to FSU. Mark says, "What's your take on the continued criticism of the defense? Other than 2 awful stretches against Wake and Clemson where we gave up 55 points unanswered, I think the defense played pretty darn good, especially dealing with some injuries. Let's not forget that neither Syracuse or Miami saw the end zone on their home fields. Boston College, Georgia Tech didn't fare much better. 2020, first half of 21, defense was unwatchable. Now they're in position to be a very solid defense with everybody returning except Jamie and some nice additions from the portal. Is it just a matter of folks being spoiled from the glory days, or are they jaded from the product from 17 through 21. I mean, even elite defenses give up lots of points and yards on any given Saturday at this point, which is absolutely amen, Mark. Or is the narrative true? FSU's defense was only good statistically in 22 because they did not face a lot of good offenses.
Well, yeah, I mean, they were 4th in the country in passing yards allowed, like least a number, because they didn't face a ton of great quarterbacks, and the ones they did face, they didn't do all that well against. I think,
but they were up all the time, Corey. So these teams should have been forced into throwing the ball a bunch, right?
Well, I think the criticism comes from, in my opinion, in my case, actually, the Clemson game. That was not a good performance against an average at best offense. And then the last 2 games of the season, which you won both. So congratulations, you did what you had to do. But Florida kind of ran up and down the field on you. Oklahoma ran all over you. Those are the 2. It's just that's what lingers. Just as it on the flip side, everybody's in love with Jordan Travis. Now, he had a very good season. But those last 2 games in particular, like, oh, my gosh, he might be one of the best players in the country. He might be the best player in the country. That's because of what he did those last couple of games. And I think on the flip side, the reason the perspective has kind of shifted a little bit towards the defense is how they looked those last 2 games. Just not very good. There's no other way to describe it. Like Oklahoma, yeah, that's a good offense when that kid's at quarterback, but they were missing a bunch of linemen. And it didn't matter. And then Florida, they hadn't done that to anyone, running up and down the field on you. So I think that was what people. That's what that's the filter that people are looking through that lens.
Fair. I mean, I again really don't have a lot to add on that one, so I'm not going to say anything. Well said, Corey.
Good.
Let's go. All right, this is the basketball portion of the program. Apparently, we got 4 different people inquiring in different ways about the basketball program. Old Dad's a Nole is curious. Island Chief is curious. Random_John is curious, as is our guy Daryl in Thomasville, North Carolina. Different kind of aspects. We'll try to touch on all of them. Wake up! Happy side note, I won the fourth quarter in my square, says Old Dad's a Nole. I'm hearing the air horns playing right now in my head.
Nice, man. He loved see, nobody appreciates great coaching like Old Dad is a Nole, because not only did the Eagles try to let the Chiefs score, but my man McKinnon, if he does what most running backs do, he just saunters into the end zone and celebrates and spikes the ball. No, he slides down at the 1 yard line, and that's how that 8-5 hit. And whoever had the 2-5 was really upset with that.
There we go. A little bit of sauce for you. District Attorney Harvey Dent once said, Corey, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. A lot of truth in that. It happened in Happy Valley. It happened here with two icons, unbelievably, already. I'm a huge fan of what Coach Leonard Hamilton has done at FSU, but I would hate to see it happen here. Sorry to veer from football, but the hoop situation is weighing heavily on me. I'm not feeling this is going to end well. Love the show, Old Dad. Island Chief kind of wondering about maybe head coach in waiting, try to lure somebody who might be hotly in demand, bring them here, or do you just say, no, we're just going to move on, go to the best available? Random_John wonders if we feel Alford, what he'll do this offseason. Will it be a priority? He's shown he's not afraid to invest in non-revenue sports, although basketball is a revenue sport. New assistants, new coach. Does a collective come out of nowhere? Is there a new one out there, somebody that might be battles ends-ish? And then Captain_63, again, Daryl. Basically just saying, you get 3 bad seasons in a row. He's a legend, but so is Coach Bowden. When's enough? Are we close, Corey?
Well, look, if it looks anything like this again next year, then yeah. I mean, look, Leonard Hamilton didn't sign a lifetime contract. He is about to break the record. We should point out we're recording this on Wednesday before they play at Clemson, but we're going to go ahead and assume they lose that game. And if they don't, all apologies, guys. We knew you could do it. Great win on the road. So they're going to have 19 losses. Well, the school record for losses in a season is 21. They're at least going to tie it and probably break the darn thing. So when you have the worst record, when you have the worst season in school history, you don't just get another 2 or 3 years to figure things out, especially coming off a bad season the year before. All the goodwill that Leonard has built, it's goodwill, and that's why he's not going to be fired this year. He's allowed to have a dip. He's not allowed to crater it so far down in the liquid hot magma that you can't bring it back up again. And that's what I think the concern is as you watch what this program is doing. I mean, the football team didn't even fall off the cliff like this. Like Jimbo, they had, a couple of 9-3, 10-3 seasons. And even Jimbo's last year was, quote unquote, a winning season. It wasn't 2-10. No. That's what we've gone from a team that could have won a national championship in 2020 to a team that went to the Sweet 16 in 2021 to now a team that's going to set the school record for losses in 2023. That is an unprecedented collapse. So, yeah, they have to. I think Michael Alford sits down with Leonard, gets a game plan. Leonard said after the game like we talked about earlier in the week, he said after the game on Saturday that he knows how to fix it. Okay, well, you have an offseason to do it. The portal is wide open. You need to go get some guys, sure. But what are you doing about your coaching staff? And what is the long-term goal here? Because he is going to be 75 when the next college basketball season starts. And now, look, I know apparently people can run this country into their mid-80s. Like, we're fine with that. The two people that will probably the two people that just ran for president, were both older than Leonard Hamilton is right now. But weirdly, I think there comes a time where maybe you can run a country. Maybe you can be the most powerful person in the free world, but you don't need to be running a Division I basketball team when you get to your late 70s. I mean, you just don't. So I do think that there has to be a plan in place. I don't think there'll be a coach in waiting. There just won't, unless it's Stan. That would be the only thing they could do, and I don't think they're going to do that, the assistant coach Stan Jones. Now, everybody would want to talk about Dennis Gates. He had the big win at Tennessee over the weekend. They're probably going to make the NCAA tournament. They got boat race on Tuesday. But hey, they went one on that road trip with the big win at Tennessee. So he's a shiny object, but I don't know that he leaves Missouri for Florida State. I think Charlton Young would, but I don't know if that's, and maybe you don't make a splash hire, but I would be all for CY becoming the head coach here. He was here. He was very instrumental in what this program became. He's young-ish. He's had head coaching experience, but is that a splash hire, an assistant from Missouri, even if he was one of your former assistants? Or do you want to go get the guy at where is it, FIU, the guy that's won?
FAU, I think they're
FAU,
actually,
where they're 25-2 or something. But again, Leonard's not going anywhere this year. So the question is, what is the time frame for when he does leave? Because here's the thing. They can have an exit strategy. Maybe Leonard wants 2 or 3 more years. Maybe he wants to go out on top, but you can't just wait that out until it actually happens. We've seen this play out before. There needs to not maybe be a drop dead, this is when you're leaving, but if it doesn't turn around next year, we might have to say goodbye. You don't want it to come you don't want it to go that way. You want him to go out on top, whatever that means to you. It's not going to be a national championship, but getting to the NCAA tournament, winning 20 games, whatever it is. You want him to go out on top, but at what cost? Because this can't continue. You literally have, one of the 5 worst Power 5 teams in the country on your hands here after having one of the 5 best in the country 3 years ago. So it's an interesting and it's a delicate deal here with Alford, right? He can't fire Leonard Hamilton after this year, and he does not want to fire Leonard Hamilton at all.
No.
But what if you're 10-20 next year?
Oh, it's over.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's
next year,
but that's what we're all trying to avoid, right?
Yes.
We want at least 18-12, 20-14. We want something respectable for him to go out on if he's going to go out. But you don't want you can't mire in mediocrity because you don't want to hurt a head coach's feelings. But also understand the head coach doesn't want to go out like this. He's not just there to cash a paycheck. He wants to turn this around. He wants to go out. He knows what he built. And he wants to see it at least somewhat recognizable when he steps out, and he leaves it in a good place for whoever does come behind him. It's interesting. It's really an interesting, and Florida State's been through it before, really, with Bowden and Mike Martin. It's just
I think it'll
fascinating what it's going to be.
I'm curious to see if, how much money does Florida State truly, they've invested in Mike Norvell, they invested in football. We talked to you about the fact that they really do have money. But, will they overextend themselves to have a marquee name to be their head basketball coach, or do they think they can find, a diamond? Is CY good enough? Or does Michael Alford, he's going to have Mike Norvell, one of the 10 best coaches, if you want to talk about how the teams played last year, right? They finished 10th in the nation, if you want to use that kind of sort of, reasoning or what have you. Will he be fine with that, or will he want to go and be we're in the ACC, we need to have a coach that's got huge gravitas? Although, look who Duke hired, John Shire. North Carolina didn't go that splashy to replace Roy.
No, they went with an assistant.
Yeah, so I really am curious to see what that happens.
Yeah, I don't foresee that. I don't think Florida State is in a position, if you just look around the landscape of college basketball, there aren't who did Florida just hire?
Yeah, from
Todd
San Francisco.
Golden, right?
Yeah.
And then before that, it was the guy from Louisiana Tech. And Florida has has a much more storied tradition than Florida State, and has more money to give. And they still got the coach from San Francisco. So you're not going to go get somebody from a Power 5 school, probably, unless Gates wants to just come back to Tallahassee. You're not going to get an up-and-coming coach from a Power 5 school. So you're going to have to go the other route, which is either an assistant from one of those schools, an assistant from your own school, or a head coach from a smaller school, and hope that you hit a home run with them. That's just kind of that's kind of how it works. But
because retreads don't work, because Tom Crean, Georgia. You see a lot of these guys.
No, I would not do that at all. And look, man, this isn't just specific to Florida State. Calipari's struggling at Kentucky. They're kind of he seems like he won't be, because he's got an incredible recruiting class coming in, because it's Kentucky. But they have not been nearly what they were. And there comes a time where the fan base kind of just wants a change. I don't know that the fan base is here right now because of happened the 5 years previous to these last two. Right. He had built up such goodwill, but the point is you can't look like this again. You can't be almost uncompetitive. I wouldn't say almost. And it wasn't, again, last year they lost games, but it wasn't just that they lost games. They would be down by 35 at half. I remember the North Carolina game specifically, and that was before North Carolina became great. It was just and they were down like 60-20, 65-22. They don't guard anyone. They don't rebound. They're not tough. There's nothing. They don't shoot well. They don't do anything well. And that's an indictment of the talent that's been accrued. It's an indictment on the coaching staff and not catering towards it. But again, you can say I know how to fix it, and by all means, we all want Leonard to fix it. There's no bigger fan of Leonard Hamilton than I am. But you don't get carte blanche for 5 years until you're 80 years old to figure it out. You got 1 year, and if it starts going sour in the middle of next season, I would say like at this time next year, if they're hovering around 500, I think the discussions are ongoing. Like, look, man, you've got 5 games left. And they might have a discussion before the season. I don't know, but you can't. It's really hard to imagine having a 76 or 77-year-old head coach in the middle of a rebuild.
Because when he says
those aren't the people
that
rebuild programs. 77-year-olds, 76-year-olds, they don't do rebuilds.
Because when he says fix it, it's like, okay, do you mean fix it like Wake Forest, like Pitt fix it overnight seemingly by going to the transfer portal, or like I need some time to fix it? Because he didn't specify that. And I do wonder, Corey, like, is the bigger problem right now the symptoms, like the losing, or the causes? Like, how do you get into a situation where this roster is so devoid of ready-made talent? And I know it took Trent and, T-Man, it took them time to develop. But, like, you had some NBA lottery picks to kind of shield them for a little bit, to let that kind of happen and simmer. You don't have that right now. Like, how – it's not arrogance, but like, how do you fall asleep at the wheel to like where you compose your roster going into the season and be like, all right, we're good? And you mentioned like Jalen Gainey goes down. Okay. I mean, he's the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year, but like, what's his WAR? Like, how much does that really lift all ships? Cameron Fletcher's out. Okay. But we've had enough of a sample size to see. I don't know if the bigger problem right now is just the losing or like the disappointment. And how could you have built such great rosters here and had such a great run the last, for 5-6 years, and then you just completely seem to have lost all touch of how to keep a roster moving and afloat?
Lost all culture too. Like lost every bit of the culture that had been built up. And that was a big problem with last year, is the two guys you absolutely could not lose were Anthony Polite and Malik Osborne. They were the fifth-year guys. They had been through the wars. They had been to the mountaintop. They knew what the Florida State way was. They were going to be instrumental in welcoming all these newcomers and making them understand what Florida State basketball is all about. And they barely played. And they were hurt all season. When they did play, they weren't good. Wyatt Wilkes, same thing. And then so those guys that you thought were going to be the holdovers that kind of held the rope for this new class of guys to understand what it meant, they dropped the rope, not because they got hurt. And so now there's nobody left from those great teams, not one person. So who's establishing the culture? The guys that get beat every night they go out there? The guys that don't guard anyone? Like there's nobody there. There's no leadership there that understands what it takes to be a winning basketball player. And so you got to figure that. You got to find that. And yeah, I mean, the portal's going to be big. It's also going to be big who comes back. Look, we all knew. We stated ahead of time that Baba Miller wasn't Kevin Durant. We knew he wasn't going to come in and average 30 a game and be a savior. But this is absurd how bad he's been. He's completely unproductive. And when you watch that kid on the court, you see what's there. He's 6'11", can handle, can move. He's faster than almost anybody on the team. He's quicker than almost anybody on the team. He really does have a nice shot, although when he gets in games, he's airballing everything. He plays with zero confidence, and that's an issue. Is he going to be back next year? Certainly, I wouldn't think he's done enough to put his name in the draft, but maybe he wants to go play somewhere else where he thinks he can be utilized better than 2 points a game. So there's all these question marks that are hovering around this program, and we just hope they get figured out so my man can go out, not on top, but at least not face first in the mud like this is.
Last question on this. Corey.
All right.
Greg Marshall, or is he still too toxic? Former coach of Wichita State, apparently was a complete jerk to his players, like a la Bobby Knight. Maybe not a la whatever was going on in New Mexico State. But I think it's, if things don't work out next season and Leonard has to either, eject himself or he's sent packing, because I feel like that's a guy that's built a program. He maintained some pretty good success at Wichita State, although they tapered off, and maybe it's because he was a jerk. But, is that a guy you would reach out to and see if he's, rehabilitated himself? Because I'm trying to think of, I meant, we can't get Jay Wright, unfortunately, everybody.
Right.
And I don't think we're going to get Sean Miller leave Xavier. So I'm just trying to think of, those guys that are out there that have done it at places that might not have the best sort of situations.
Well, look, hey, Leonard Hamilton's my coach, Aslan. I don't even want to entertain any of these other names.
Right.
But if you're going to go that route of guys with maybe questionable past, but have proven they can win, and I'm just throwing this name out there for 2 years down the road.
Dave Bliss?
After he's shown some rehabilitation? No, Chris Beard.
Oh, okay.
He got to a championship game. He got to a Final Four in the national championship game at Texas Tech. He had Texas rolling. That stuff happened. You have to do a real investigation. Don't just talk to Chris Beard, but do a real investigation into what happened. And then as I'm saying this now, I'm like, no, we're not doing that. You don't go from Leonard Hamilton to that. You just don't. I know he's a very good basketball coach. I know somebody will hire him. I don't think Florida State should hire Chris Beard. So strike that from the record, everyone. Let's go and see why. I want to see why. I don't want Chris Beard.
Savor a shot of energy while nourishing your body with a compound of essential vitamins with Vitamin Energy. Small package, sizable punch. It's less than 2 ounces. You can enjoy your Vitamin Energy as a shot, pour it into a water bottle, and sip on it throughout the day. Vegan, kosher certified, gluten-free, non-GMO, zero sugar. Gives you the energy boost you need and crave without any of the crash. Whole bunch of FSU grads over there at vitaminenergy.com hooking you folks up with the promo code WARCHANT BOGO, B-O-G-O. Use that promo code over at vitaminenergy.com. Buy one, get one free. It's easy as that. Get your focus up. Get your pre-workout game strong. You can even try a variety pack to see which shot you like best. Give it a shot. Check it out, vitaminenergy.com. Promo code WARCHANT, B-O-G-O. Corey, they emailed me about my house and whether or not a semi can pull into my driveway because they're shipping me a pallet, bud. Your stuff, my stuff is coming in on a pallet. So I'm like, I'm probably going to need a liftgate, guys. But I'm stoked. There's new flavors, new potions. Give me some Bart Scott. Can't wait.
Why don't you get you should tell people, listeners, our loyal listeners, when that truck is showing up, and we can just start selling it out of your driveway.
Like Nino Brown, just handing them out
man, good for the people, for the neighborhood, like Robin Hood out here. Man. In fact, speaking of, I had the sour apple workout one earlier today on Wednesday, and man, I was sprinting at the end of the workout. That's all I'm saying. Most of that is me because I'm in incredible shape.
True.
But some of that clearly was the workout because usually I'm exhausted by the end of the workout, the 7-hour energy, because I usually work out by the end. I work out and I'm exhausted by the end, but not with Vitamin Energy.
My man.
Daddy was running. He was sprinting like he was Usain Bolt.
Nice.
On that treadmill at the end.
VitaminEnergy.com, promo code WARCHANT, B-O-G-O. Georgia Noles 86, our guy Ranye. Wake up, guys. What does each letter represent in the climb Coach Norvell references? I looked this up, Corey. I did look it up.
Is it an acronym?
Yeah, it's an acronym. Yeah.
Oh,
you ready?
Man. I didn't know that. Can I guess?
Absolutely. First one, C, obviously.
Courage.
No.
Competitiveness.
There's a lot of M's in it and a couple T's.
Commitment.
Bingo. L. L is 2 words, actually, but the first one starts with an L.
Love this. Like me.
No.
Love you. I don't know that one.
Little things.
Okay.
I
am the best coach in America, and you need to believe it.
Close. Intensity.
Okay.
M, another 2-worder.
Mike Norvell.
Mental toughness.
Ooh, okay. All right. Okay.
And then the B.
Oh, be like Mike?
Nailed it.
Okay, good, great.
Brotherhood.
Okay, so
commitment, little
love
thing.
me, little things, right?
Yeah. Intensity,
mental
toughness, brotherhood.
be like Mike, and brotherhood. Okay, all right, nice. I didn't know that.
It's all been on display, right? Commitment, the guys that have stuck around this program,
Yeah,
that have hung tough. Little things, apparently they're keeping the planes clean. They're nice gentlemen. They're taking their hats off. They're taking their jewelry off. Intensity. I mean, we see it out there at practice. You guys hear it when you see the videos of him welcoming recruits. Mental toughness. They're in dogfights. I mean, they were in 120 minutes of dogfight to end the season, right? Against Florida and Oklahoma. Pulled it out. And then brotherhood. They all seem to get along quite well. Azaria and Darius were at the Pensacola stop, shaking hands, skin to skin with the folks. So it's all there, man. Walk it like I talk it, I think is what Ulysses S. Grant said before he let before he let Sherman do his thing. So walk it like you talk it.
Right.
Next question, Knoll 43. It's more of just a statement. It's Eric from Tallahassee these days. The Noles, 3 weeks away from spring practice. Hopefully the offseason strength and conditioning is going smoothly in the preparation for the upcoming and promising season. The extension now out of the rear view. It is time to climb and make it all the way to Pillar Ray Pereira's hometown of Houston, Texas to bring home the national championship. Let's go, Noles. 2023 is our year. Spring, summer, and fall sports. All teams clicking. Eric in Tallahassee. Hit the thumbs up and like button, he says, everybody. It's Eric saying it, so do it.
Speaking of all the teams, softball got a doubleheader win.
Nice.
On Tuesday over FAMU, and then heading down to Clearwater for that big tournament with all the other big boys in the country.
Nice. Our guy Derek, XDQ004. Wake up! If we finish the season as we're all predicting in the college football playoff, are we all predicting that? We're hoping, right?
I think he's being facetious, but maybe not.
How many players will have been drafted if this happens? Which Ira and I talked about this briefly on the car ride out to Pensacola. Like, we're wondering about Pro Day. I think Pro Day is like towards the end of March. And I'm like, who's going to be at Pro Day besides Jamie? And he's like, well, Dylan and Jazz and Turntine. And I'm like, I don't know, Jarquez, I guess, Pac-Man, So, but, man, think about if everything hits, right? Jordan, Trey, Johnny, Bob Scott, maybe Dimitri Emmanuel. I mean, I'm sure he'll be drafted if he's still here. Golly.
Verse.
Yeah, forgot about that guy. Lovett, Fisk.
Cypress.
Yeah. Maybe Akeem the Dream.
Well, he might be a senior. So either way,
Yeah.
Renardo Green, perhaps.
6.5. Would you take the over the under on 6.5?
Being drafted off next year's team.
Yes, off the 2023 team that'll be at the playoff, we're hoping. I think I'd take the over, right? I mean, Robert Scott, Jordan, Trey, Johnny, that's 4 on offense alone. And then Jaheim Bell, if you want to even say that.
Yeah, you definitely do. I think he's draftable. I also think the
Versus 6.
The kid that just came from UTEP.
Cypress is 7. Byers.
Yeah, I think he's certainly draftable.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, so they should. Yeah, I would go over 6.5. If they do, like, if all those guys don't have, if they have good seasons, and they have a good year, so they're probably off to the NFL. Yeah, I think you're looking at 8 or 9 probably. It's like the old days, Aslan.
No pressure. That's why I'm the whole. It's not all or nothing. He's got his contract extension. He's good. He's sleeping well. But man, like you really do have to strike while the iron's hot, man. It's. I mean, when you have that many guys on this team, this schedule, this conference, in this day and age, in this window right now, man, make it happen. I also thought he was a little bit more. He got a little Reverend Mike in him in Pensacola. Like blew out the speakers, Reverend Mike. But then he kind of felt it, I feel like, and he dialed it back. Because somebody was joking to me at the Pensacola stop, like, man, they're like, he brings it, and he's like, fire and brimstone, making $4 million. What is he going to be like now that he's making $8 million? And I'm like, I think he's going to be more comfortable in his skin, like more relaxed. Like I've arrived, not complacent, but like right. I've fired you all up, and I've shown you what I can do. So I don't need to come off the top rope. And I thought I did a good job. I did a good job on Monday out there in Pensacola. It was that long ago.
All right, well, good.
How about this question? Make up your mind, guy. Nole Dad for life. We love him. Ahoy, gents. First sentence, Corey. I'm finding it hard to get too excited for the season.
Okay.
Just wait. It's great, though, because the way he ends it. If I just read the first sentence and the last sentence, it'd be amazing. Anyhow, finding it hard to get too excited for the upcoming season. We were awesome in the 90s, then we had the lost decade. We were awesome from 12 to 16, then it dropped off again. I'm just really hoping that Norvell is going to turn us into a yearly contender for the playoffs like Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, teams like that. I really, truly want to believe. With that being said, I am really confident about this season. So, I mean, if you're not too excited, how can you not be too excited for the season, but you're really confident about the season? Reconcile that for me, Corey.
It's two competing thoughts I think he had in the statement. Like he's excited for the season, or he's confident for the season, but he's not confident that they're going to be a perennial top 10 team.
Okay.
Like this could be a one-off.
All right.
Because of all the
talent we just
everything that
off.
coalesced with the portal and the guys returning, and you have this great quarterback that kind of came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like this was not the plan all along. Was to Jordan Travis to be a Heisman candidate. That's you didn't go get Mackenzie Milton because you thought Jordan Travis was going to be a Heisman candidate. So this is, you kind of, it almost feels like you lucked into this. You lucked into this great quarterback that you didn't really believe in the spring of 2021. So that said, I would say this. No, I don't know that they'll ever get on the level of what Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State have done, meaning that I don't know that they're going to rip off 5 straight 12-win seasons or being the top 4 every year like those 3 teams seem to be. But remember, starting in 2024, being a perennial playoff contender means being a top 16 team. If you're in the top 16 to 17 teams in the country, you're dancing right there at the edge of being in the playoffs. So I really think Mike Norvell can make that happen. He can get on par with, what's a team that's like always around the top, like Penn State.
Yeah.
He can certainly get on par with Penn State, like always be, or Utah, somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 13. Those two teams are just smack dab at like 9. I feel like they've been ranked. Both those teams have been ranked number 9 for the last 4 years. I think Florida State under Mike Norvell can definitely get to that, even with some of the disadvantages they will continue to have as far as money when it comes to SEC and Big Ten schools. So I think you can be a perennial playoff contender. Can he be a perennial national championship contender? Well, I don't know. But let's get to a few playoffs, and then let's see what kind of recruits he starts bringing in after that.
Absolutely. I endorse all that, Corey. Well said, man.
All right, buddy.
Thomas Ortner. If Georgia and Alabama back out of the scheduled games with Florida State, would they be on the hook for just the loss of revenue, or would they also be responsible for the buyout FSU would most likely have to pay to get a respectable replacement? It all seems cowardly to me, especially since Texas is keeping Michigan's home and home on the slate. P.S. Aslan, sorry for last week. I have a dislocated or slightly broken thumb. The swelling has since come down. I don't believe him. I think he just was a poor typer, and that's just – I need a doctor's note.
Oh, that's right. I was like, what's he apologizing for?
I need a doctor's note, Orts. Hope you're feeling better, though, man. It's crazy when you know, we've got all these fingers and all these limbs, and we don't realize how important they all are when even the pinky on your left hand if you're a righty. Yeah. If it just goes hurt, you're like, man, it's so important to the game. But a thumb? That's what separates us from everything else, right? The opposable thumbs, Corey. So
especially texting.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom.
I mean, how are you going to text without a thumb? That's crazy. We appreciate you battling through it and making almost a coherent question last week. This was much better. We really do appreciate T-Bone.
I've never actually seen the contract on these games.
I have not either.
Yeah. Maybe can we ask for that?
We could probably get the contracts for that. That's a sunshine law, freedom of information. We could get that. Look, for the people that don't know, so they start with Alabama 25-26.
Yes.
And then Georgia's 27-28.
Yes.
I went on a rant on headlines about this because I'm not against those games being canceled. I'm not for it either, but I'm not against it. The reason I'm not for it is because how cool it would be to have Georgia and Alabama come to Doak. Like what that would mean for season ticket sales, what that would mean just for the energy in that one game. I'd much rather see Georgia or Alabama in that stadium than Southern Miss or North Alabama. You know what I mean? It's so much better for your fans. Give them a home experience and a home experience like that. And on top of that, with the 12-team playoff, one loss at the beginning of the season doesn't crush your dreams. You could probably still afford another loss and make the playoffs if you beat the right teams. So that's why I'm for those staying around. Why I'm against them staying around is because screw the SEC. They are trying to squash the ACC. They are trying to make the ACC irrelevant. That's why they're trying to make everybody irrelevant. That's why they went and got Texas and Oklahoma. So until they pony up and say, Florida State, you're joining us, I don't want to give their teams more marquee games than they already get. Like, oh, you want a marquee game? Well, go to Oxford then, man. Because why would the ACC do anything to help the SEC? And also, if Georgia comes to Doak and loses, they will not get penalized because they'll have 5 or 6 other opportunities to beat these inflated SEC teams to go right back up in the rankings. Meanwhile, if Florida State loses to Georgia, oh, they can't play with the SEC. Like it's not, the standard isn't the same for the two teams competing in the game when it comes to trying to make the playoff. Georgia will get much better, more of the benefit of the doubt and have much greater chances down the line. You saw what happened to LSU, man. You just go back to the first game of this season. Florida State outplayed LSU for 3 quarters, collapsed, still won the game. LSU goes on a nice winning streak over the next 2 months, and all of a sudden LSU's in talk for the playoff. They're ranked ahead of Florida State even though they have the same record. So, again, the SEC just gets this, and it's obviously the best conference in the country, but they're going to get inflated for all their wins. I don't like helping them out and giving them more marquee games than they already get. At the same time, I want Florida State to have marquee games, and BC ain't it. So you got to do something. Now, to answer the question that's really asked and not just, hey, Corey, will you go on a rant for 3 minutes? I don't know if they would have to pay the buyout for whoever they would get to replace him. I really don't. I was trying to think back when Auburn did it back in the 90s when they Tuberville took over, I think, and they got out of their home and home with Florida State. I just can't remember what the details were for that. I know they had to pay, but I don't know if they had to pay for whoever Florida State replaced them with. But yeah, I would say right now, because Oklahoma and Texas are coming, and they probably want to go to a 10-game schedule, that I would think it's 50-50 because the landscape in that conference is going to change with non-conference games. I think the chances of those games being played are probably 50-50 at best.
You know, it's crazy. I was looking at this. So, like you said, Bama 25-26, Georgia 27-28. I think the games in Tallahassee against both of these opponents are week 1 games. But then when we go play them in Sanford Stadium, in Bryant-Denny, those are like week 2.
Okay.
Kind of weird.
It is weird.
We get tune-ups when we play at their house, but when they play at our house, I guess maybe that favors us, right?
Probably favors Florida State, yeah.
Look at that. So the world isn't skewed always towards the SEC. Hopefully the odds are skewed in your favor. Try it out over at mybookie.ag. They'll give you a deposit bonus when you use the promo code WARCHANT. That'll certainly help skew some things in your favor, right? A little bit more purchasing power for your deposit. NFL futures are out there. Let's see here. The Falcons, plus 7,500 to win it all, Corey, next year.
Huh. Yeah. Once they get Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if they're going to get Aaron or Lamar Jackson. I think I want Lamar just because he's younger, and Aaron Rodgers, who knows if he's ever going to come back out of the woods. So maybe I'm going to go make a run at Lamar Jackson. Then that number plummets, man.
All sorts of lines over at MyBookie. Basketball as well. I don't want to read it. Florida State, they were a 10-point underdog when they played Clemson, everybody. 10-point underdog. You could have hopped all over that. Don't know what happens in the game because we're recording this beforehand. But anything you want to bet, anything, anytime, anywhere, available over at mybookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT to get your deposit bonus. Give you some more cheddar, some more jack, some more whatever you want to use, adjective to describe cash to play in the game. MyBookie.ag, promo code is WARCHANT. Winding things down here, Corey. Home stretch, some may call it here. Maybe only 1 or 2 because we bundled a lot that were towards the bottom here.
Yeah.
Our guy Nollboy02 Saw him in Pensacola out there with his pops. Shane is like his quasi-godfather. I thought his name was Shay when he first introduced himself, but it's Shane. I shouted him out at the top of the show. Anyhow, he was wondering, guys, what if Florida State had hired Mike Norvell in 2017? How do you think things would have changed? Or maybe how things would have looked, maybe. I don't know. I've seen this question, Corey, so I should be ahead of it on you. But I don't really have any kind of original, thought or anything that's too provocative. I certainly don't think they would have cratered as badly like in 19. I mean, 18, who knows?
Or 20. Like 20 wouldn't have gone as bad because it would have been his, fourth year? Yeah. 18, it would have been his third year. So 2020 wouldn't have been the disaster it was, and I don't think, obviously, the first month of 2021 wouldn't have been the disaster it was. But
that's the thing, though, because so you go from Jimbo, who was, I mean, I don't know if we call him a player's coach, but in 17 he had checked out, right? By all accounts, he had checked out, at least after the Alabama game. But he came back to beat Florida in Gainesville, so thanks for coming back on the clock for that one, John James. Appreciate you. But, like, if you would have had that 9 months of pretty much no supervision from a head football coach, it seems like. Maybe not 9 months. It was 3 months, right? I mean, he was in. He was all in for that Alabama game. They lost the Alabama game September or whatever, and then by November he had checked out of the job. So it was like 3 months. You can point out 16 promissory notes and him losing grip, his personal life spiraling out of control, whatever you want to say. It wasn't horrendous. So I think if like Mike Norvell shows up at that point, there's enough hanging in the balance, I think, Corey, at that point, to where you can grab it and you can stop what's sliding down the hill. You can stop that slide a lot better than starting day one and it's all the way at the bottom. It's in an abyss. Because
is the question like after the 17 season?
Yeah. So like instead of hiring Taggart, how would it look like? Because because Willie clearly, whatever philosophy he wanted to instill and bring here, did not stop the slide. It just seemed to kind of supercharge it, if anything. I'm not saying 18 would have been a great year, but I just think that 18 might have been less rocky, so that 19 would have been a little bit more of a true rebuild. And to your point, I guess 20 would have looked a lot different.
Yeah, and look, man, it's not just Norvell. I'm assuming when we talk about Norvell coming after 17, he's bringing Alex Atkins with him.
Oh, my gosh, right? I mean, Ira and I were talking about that on the way out to Pensacola, Corey. Like, think about that staff. Mark Snyder out the game. Jim Leavitt wasn't even part of that 18 team, but he comes in 19. He's out the game. Raymond Woody, shout out, though, he's a BC head coach.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, Bethune-Cookman.
Yeah, Bethune-Cookman.
Gotcha.
Sorry, yeah.
The other BC.
BCC, I apologize. Greg Fry not coaching anywhere. Dante Pimpleton, I don't think is coaching any longer. After
he just got a job at Missouri. I just saw it on Twitter, like Missouri State or somewhere. He just got hired.
All right. I think Telly's hanging around at Marshall. But Walt Bell.
Harlan Barnett. Walt Bell is wherever. Where is Walt Bell?
I think
Harlan
he might
Barnett.
be Indiana. Maybe he's somewhere. He's actually had a Power 5 program, Walt Bell. But so it's not just
David
Mike.
Kelly. Look, man, it was a bad staff. There's no other way. And you can say we can say that in hindsight, or we can say it looking at where those guys are now.
Sorry, Corey. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but I was asking Ira this too on the road. Like, having seen what we saw, Corey, like would we know it? Would we see it in advance now? Like, say Norvell, whatever, kills it next 6 years. He's like, I want to go to the NFL, and then you bring in a new staff, and like, will we be like, I like all these sort of little idiosyncrasies. Like, how did we not know? And I'm not sure a lot of people are asking that question right now. Like, how did we go to practice some days? How were we around that stuff, listening to what was going on? We had an idea that it might not work out, but it was after it actually hit the fan. Like, would we be able to recognize it this time? Would we be able to kind of be like, all right, no, bad hire. We can just say that.
It's hard to say because we didn't get to watch Jimbo practices. We got to watch one a year. And then we didn't really get to watch many of Taggart practices. Now, they were different than what we were watching with Jimbo, but again, you're talking about a really small sample size of like 2 or 3 a year, and then we get every practice. So if I would have gotten to see a Mike Norvell practice or even, 10 Jimbo practices and then gotten to see 10 Willie practices, I think we'd have been able to discern, these guys do a lot of standing around. This doesn't seem to be much of a cohesive plan
operation,
every day.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing we remember the drill, the ball security drill. that showed up on Twitter?
Yeah.
Where the guy, the GA or whoever it was, the manager, is just smacking the ball like he's trying not to hurt a 9-month-old baby on top of the head. Yeah. Like no urgency there at all. None. And Aslan, as I've said before, how you do anything is how you do everything. And if you're okay with the practice drill where it's no drill at all because the kid at the end isn't even trying to knock the ball out, then what are we doing? What's the point of all this? And yeah, so going back to I don't know. It just, again, we didn't get to see a lot of Willie practices to know what was going on behind the scenes or wasn't going on behind the scenes. But to answer the question, it's hard to say, man. If Norvell brings Atkins, then at least because, man, the roster, like, who's his quarterback? James Blackman? Like, there's a ceiling you're going to hit.
Yeah.
There's a ceiling you're going to hit with James Blackman as your quarterback. And Blackman would at least been maybe Francois finds his groove in that offense with Norvell.
It's an offensive playmakers,
Atkins.
Corey. I'm sure DeAndre considers himself a playmaker. So
true. Hey, by the way, DeAndre might be starting for the Orlando Guardians on Saturday in the first in the relaunch of the XFL.
Coached by who?
With Terrell Buckley.
Boom.
With old T-Buck at the helm, playing the Houston Roughnecks, coached by Wade Phillips on Saturday night.
Nice.
So I don't know. Buckley wouldn't tip his hand on who. He's also one of the guys he's competing with at quarterback is Paxton Lynch. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Former first-round pick from Memphis for the Broncos.
Don't stop believing, Paxton. All right.
Yeah, so those two guys are battling it out for the starting quarterback job. But yeah, it's just hard to say. Obviously it would have been better. The program would have been in a better place in 20 and 21. There would have been some continuity. The coaching staff that he hired was better. I think he's better than Willie, clearly. So that in itself means that the program would have been in better shape. But I don't know that it could take the leap that it could be taking this year if you don't have the dynamic quarterback that you have in Jordan Travis. And he was not going to have that probably in 18 or 19 unless Francois, became better than he ended up being. You know what I mean? And maybe that was because he was getting bad coaching in 18. And if he's getting coached by Norvell and Dillingham or Norvell and Tokars, maybe he looks like a completely different guy and they win 7 or 8 games in 18.
Maybe we had Dan Lanning, actually. We might have had Dan Lanning and not even Adam Fuller if it would have been here in 18. So think about that.
Well, in hindsight, they probably should have because they could not have missed the mark worse than they did.
All right, 3 more. Let's hustle through it here.
Let's do it.
Tennis ump, wake up, guys. A bit off base. Might be pun intended. But wasn't either Link's wife or one of the assistants' wives a big softball assistant at Notre Dame? Curious if she is helping out with our softball team as maybe an off-field analyst. That sounds familiar, but I don't know whose spouse it is.
Yes, it is, but
Is it
I
Link's
don't
wife?
either. I thought it was the pitching coaches.
Oh, Chuck Ristano, Flick of the Ristano.
Let me see. You keep talking.
His second question was glad to see Mike answer the question about expectations, as that is something that a lot of us have been thinking of, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think about that. Thanks as always, Drink de Luna, and meet. Oh, that must be you guys' headlines, the register folk. Yeah, I like that a lot, man. That was cool. He said that he's not going to put there's no limits on what this team can be. But, he talked about just the fact that the star players on this team are working harder than he's ever seen before, which kind of goes counter to the whole we're going to always prepare the same. But, he certainly could be like, listen, my expectation is we're just going to get better every single day. That continues to be my expectation for this team and this program. And it's something that he said in the past, right? And he could have gone back and used that line, but he hasn't. He's talked about not putting a cap on what they can be, and they are confident. They're working harder because they have proof of concept, I guess, if you want to say. The fact that they've gone through all this, they believe in it, they've bought into it, and they've seen how well they performed on the field. So, yeah, that's a cool thing to see. It's maybe a subtlety. He's not going to come out and say championship or bust, but, they certainly realize what's on the line, how good they can be, and how manageable, I guess, maybe, Corey, the path to that is.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. So, yeah, she coached there for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
But she is not there now.
Who is she? Ristano's wife?
Ristano, yeah. Okay. Lizzie Ristano.
Lizzie. Yeah, sorry. Lizzie's husband is that's how we're going to call Chuck now. Lizzie's husband, so.
Yeah, so I don't, it's a really good question. I don't know. I don't think Lonnie is needing help.
I don't think she'd turn it away. I mean, like you saying, off-field analyst. I mean, maybe. Why not?
Oh
right?
yeah, well, if she's got nothing to do, I guess. But yeah, I would think that. It's a good question.
We'll look into it. We'll look into it.
We'll look into it. We'll look into it. We'll ask Lonnie. I mean, you think Lonnie would? I mean, they played against each other for years now. So yeah, I would think she'd welcome her around the program. But I don't know if she'll have a defined role because again, Lonnie's got things squared up pretty good over there on that side of the complex. The other question was what?
What are your thoughts on Mike talking about expectations, kind of embracing it, I guess?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's what you have to do. But I also think, and I know we have this stuff to talk about for the next 6 months, 6.5 months. But we'll see, right? Jimbo said all the right things after 13, all the right things about embracing expectations and trying to have to dominate. And he was reading books by Phil Jackson on how to have a dynasty and all that. And while that team went undefeated and really got screwed in the polls, nobody thinks that team lived up to its potential, because that team should have been beating everyone by 21 to 25, 28 points, and it was in a dogfight every game. So I let's see what it looks like. I love that he's talking about it.
Yes.
I think it's the next step in the evolution of a program. It's to not just be surprised when you're good, but to expect it and be like, yeah, we know. And now when he wins a big game in 2023, he doesn't have to keep reminding them, hey, we still got more to do. We haven't done anything yet. They should know, yeah, we got more stuff to do. We haven't done anything yet. Yeah, great, you beat LSU. Awesome. There's still the first game of the year isn't the goal. You want to be winning the last game of the year and in a better place than Orlando. No offense, Orlando. So I like that he's talking about it. I like that he's embracing it, but we'll see how much it matters when the season actually starts.
We're going to get Lizzie Restano on the show, Corey. I just pulled up her LinkedIn, and for 17 years and 7 months, she's got Notre Dame listed as her employer as an associate softball coach. But then in August 2022, she transitioned to a mother and coaching / sports enthusiast, self-employed. She's still presently doing that, but then she added in September 2022 that she's now the manager of leadership events and strategic relationships for the We Coach company. So she's been doing that presently and since September 2022. So she didn't want any gap in her resume. It's
right.
Awesome because it goes from August 2005 to July 2022 at Notre Dame, but then she starts a job she's at now in September. So if some employer's like, well, what did you do for a whole month, young lady? She was being a mom, supporting her man, supporting her kids. So I want to get her on the pod. I just want to talk about just that. I think we can probably launch into a whole conversation.
I want her to get to work with Brady. See if we can get him quit from pulling out and actually staying on the ball.
Wow. Okay. All right. Good job.
Sorry.
Yeah. I'm like, well, you could use.
Well, I wasn't being. I was talking about with
baseball.
His swing, man.
Yeah. Right. I was saying.
His swing. He keeps stepping out towards third base like he's a 250-pound
He's been
power
doing that
hitter.
for 5 years, Corey. Come
I know.
on,
I
figure
can't.
it out.
I don't. But in the batting cage, when he's working, he looks perfect. Everything is stepped right towards the middle. He finishes over the plate, and then when it gets into a game, he's trying to yank everything to the left side of the field.
By the way, we're going to do a live show tonight at 6 o'clock. Sorry I mentioned that 1 hour into this show. The Walking Knoll 01. Wake up, guys. Long time no see. Question. Who on the roster can take the place of Jamie?
Shaheem, maybe. Probably not, but that's your best bet.
He's saying, I'm still hoping they take a transfer, but if Shaheem puts 25 pounds on.
Well, that's not happening. But he'll put on some weight. But look, man, Shaheem made some big plays last year, not just the blocked extra point, and he played in a lot of big moments. So he's not a veteran clearly, but he's not inexperienced. He's played in some big moments and some big games. That helps. And I do think he has some natural talent. I think he's a good player. I don't know that he's Jamie Robinson though. So, and whether whoever's in the portal, pretty good chance you're not getting a Jamie Robinson at this late stage. I think all the Jamie Robinsons in the portal hit it in December. So you can get some depth, and you absolutely need some depth. But I think one of the keys to the season, in my opinion, is the development of Shaheem Brown. But remember, his freshman year, he was the star of the preseason. Like, he was making 1 or 2 interceptions a game in a practice, but he wasn't. He was a freshman. He didn't know the defense well enough. He was young. He had to learn. This year he made some plays. I don't think he had any receptions, but he made some plays. And now you hope he can build off that. I know he has a ton of confidence. I'm telling you, he's the kid when we were in Jacksonville that when the defense beat the offense on the goal line drills, and the offense had to do burpees, like 20 of them. Shaheem standing in the middle of them like, oh, man, that looks hard. That looks hard, offense. Man, y'all should have won some more. Y'all wouldn't have to be doing all this. Oh, man, it looks like the O-line's about to throw up. Come on, guys. Y'all he challenges them, and he's a sophomore. He's 19, 20 years old. He hasn't even done much at the college level. He hasn't done much of anything, and he's still that guy. That to me, and I know it shouldn't, it might be all bluster, but that to me tells you what kind of – it's the same thing with Verse. Like Verse – He was talking as soon as he stepped on the football field. His first practice, he was telling them how good he was, and they sucked. He clearly they're teammates. It's just trash talk, but he had no problems trash talking. Neither does Shaheem Brown. I think when you have that in you, that means good things more often than not.
Did Ira mention any potential position changes on headlines?
No.
Okay. He mentioned one to me on the car ride, but I don't know. Sometimes what's said in the car ride is not for public consumption.
What says in Pensacola stays in Pensacola.
Yeah, so maybe we'll make a video out of it. I'll text him, like, hey, was that worth? We could probably do a video on it. Anyhow, last one. Parker Noles it all. I like it. Noles it all. Yeah. First-time poster, wake up. Been listening to you guys for 2 years. Thank you for making my drive to work and honey-do tasks less monotonous. Every time I smell laundry detergent, I hear Corey Clark say, iron sharpens iron. I'm born in Frederick, Maryland. Famous people, not many. Francis Scott Key is the most well-known. Anyways.
That's a good one. That's a great one.
Anyways, the question is this. Super conferences. Wouldn't it be advantageous for ESPN and the ACC to make their own and then have 3 of these things? Make them 20 teams apiece. Grab Oregon, Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon State, UCF. Call yourself the All Coast Conference or All Coasts Conference. Let the SEC gobble up Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor. Give Stanford, Colorado, Cal, and West Virginia over to the Big Ten. Thoughts? Thanks for all you do. Support the sponsors. Go Noles.
Who's coming to the ACC?
Oregon, Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Oregon State, Central Florida.
Yeah.
But this is where it's going to go, though, right? Maybe
I think where it goes is 2 big ones, like the NFC
but all
and
those
the AFC.
teams, but all those teams, pretty much though, are going to be in.
Well, right, yeah, sure. So instead of if you want to do the NFL model, which I think is where it's heading, you're going to have 2 conferences, and so you'll have, let's just call it the AFC and the NFC. But instead of having how many teams are in a football conference? 16?
4.
32?
There's 4 in a division, and there's 4 divisions in a conference, so 16.
So yeah, there's 32. You're going to have 50 or something. But it's going to be 2 conferences, I think when this is all said and done. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know how much that matters, if it's good for ESPN to have 3 major conferences. I just think they want eyeballs on their games on Saturdays. And however you can work it to where every Saturday has a Florida State Clemson, a Texas Oklahoma, an Alabama Georgia, a Florida State Georgia, or a Florida State Michigan. That's what you want. You just want as many eyeballs as possible, because I really think college football is the second most popular sport in this country, and it's growing, and it's not going to ever catch the NFL, but it could come darn close. When they get to whatever this final model ends up being with a 12-team playoff and 50 teams playing for it, I don't know that they care if it's split up 3 ways. I don't know that makes them any more money. I think eventually they just want it's going to be like CBS and Fox are now with the NFL, where they split. One team has the NFC, one team has the AFC, but they go back and forth. You know what I mean?
One entity, Fox pretty much has the NFC, CBS has like AFC kind of.
But
dibs.
The CBS will also get a Packers game,
right?
Like it goes back and forth depending on the home team is. So ESPN and Fox will probably have a situation like that where one team has the Big Ten side, ESPN has the SEC side, in however you want to frame those teams, and that's how it will end up looking. And so, if Florida State's playing at Michigan, well, that's a Fox game. If Michigan's playing at Florida State, that's an ESPN game, and that's how it will work. I hope that happens sooner rather than later. What they're doing now is preposterous. It's just not an even playing field. Again, I made this point, and I'll continue to make this point. The Baltimore Ravens and the Seattle Seahawks get the exact same amount of money. They're playing for the exact same trophy, and they have all the same resources because that's fair. That's how life works. But the Georgia Bulldogs and the Florida State Seminoles do not. They're supposed to be competing for the same trophy, but one, especially in 3 or 4 more years, will have vastly superior resources and more money to spend on this, that, and that. And it just doesn't seem like ESPN's controlling all the money. How are you saying this is an even? Don't you want it to be as even as possible? The beauty of the NFL, the reason the NFL took off, other than gambling and fantasy football, to the point it is now, is because of the parity, and literally every fan base in the country, save Browns fans, think they can win a Super Bowl in a year or two. That's what the NFL is set up for. The Rams just won a Super Bowl, and then they were the worst team in the league. There's some beauty in that chaos. And I think that's what college football it will eventually get to. And ESPN and the powers that be will realize, oh yeah, these teams don't like watching these fans don't like watching the same 5 teams over and over and over again. They would like to see all these other teams involved, and all these other fan bases would love to feel like they have a real chance. And they would if the money was even. Well, Vanderbilt wouldn't. Wake wouldn't. Sorry, Wake. I know you beat Florida State every year, but you're never winning a national championship. But
the thing is, though,
does
the
that make
NFL
sense?
is so, for sure. The only thing I would say, though, I think college football is almost closer to baseball in terms of it being so regionalized and so hyper-local, because I like the idea of Stanford battling Michigan for like the national championship one year. But how many people are that hardcore about college football that they'll tune in for that? Like, everybody cares about the NFL because of fantasy football and because of gambling. Maybe gambling is also going to be part of the college football sort of allure. But, yeah, man, like Georgia, there's a whole bunch of Georgia fans, man. There's a whole bunch of Ohio State fans. Everybody wants to see Alabama lose. A lot of people want to see Alabama win. I do wonder, like, if they can have that same kind of united force that the NFL has been able to rely on because they've made their product so, balanced.
I think the real question, though, is, the national championship game will always be watched. Who cares? Texas Tech played Virginia in a college basketball national championship. People watched it. Yeah. It wouldn't have gotten the same numbers as, Michigan versus Ohio State, but people still watched it. I think people would still watch a national championship game like that. I think the real key, though, is those playoff games and how much extra viewers you're getting there.
Yeah.
Like Stanford playing Alabama and knocking off Alabama.
Right.
Like TCU knocking off Michigan, although you played on flipping New Year's Eve. Whatever, college football, you're awesome. But those games will they will increase. Exponentially. You're getting those playoff games will get huge ratings, and I just think that it's never going to catch the NFL. What did they say? It was like 60 million watched the Super Bowl. Something crazy like that. It was like a MASH, like the MASH finale. That's never going to happen with college football because, a good portion of the country does not care. But the people that are at those, like Alabama, the state of Alabama is going to watch Stanford play Michigan. The state of Georgia, a lot of the state of Florida will still watch that game, even if they're not into it. Now, New York and New York City, no. L.A., probably not.
Yeah, but they never really have, though, I guess is probably.
But they don't. They wouldn't unless USC was in it or somehow Syracuse was in it. So, it's never going to be that because you don't get the New York and L.A. markets traditionally, especially New York. They just do not care about college football. So you'll never have the Super Bowl, the ratings of the NFL. But you can get pretty darn close. You can certainly eclipse the NBA. And I think you will. You might have already. I should do a story on that. What like the NBA Finals numbers are compared to what college football playoff numbers would be. Because those numbers are massive. And you also make every game in November so much more important. That's what I can't wait about the 12-team playoff. There will be 3 or 4, instead of one game that has playoff implications, there will literally be 4 or 5 games that last rivalry weekend, maybe 10 games that have legitimate playoff implications. That's cool, man. I'm excited about that. Hopefully, Florida is one of them.
Hopefully, we'll see you folks later tonight, 6 o'clock live on YouTube. In the meantime, though, check out warchant.com and the Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. live on Warchant TV, which is our YouTube channel, as well as 93.3 FM terrestrial radio in Tallahassee. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.